Lokashankara Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Yomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavathaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Bhadram Karne Vishruniyama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabhiryajatraha Tirairangai Shuštuvagum Sastanuvihi Vyashema Devahi Triyadayuhu Swastina Indru Vruddhashavaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastinastakshyo Arishtanemihi Swastino Brahaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti 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 Uma Sahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum
Uma Sahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum
Trilochanam Neelakantham Prashantam
Trilochanam
Neelakantham
Yatva Munir Gacchati Bhuta Yonim
Yatva Munir Gacchati Bhuta Yonim
Samasta Sakshim Tamasap Parastat
Samasta Sakshim Tamasas Parastat
Gacchati Prapnoti, he gains. Gacchati itself we have seen before, indicating he understands. He gains that knowledge of the self. Gacchati. Gam dhatu gatau. Meaning many meanings. In fact, we find in Sanskrit dhatu pata, there are so many words with the meaning gatau. And then when you actually look at the meaning in usage, there are so many different usages. Here, gacchati means he got it. He gets it. He is understood. Kaha gacchati? Who gains this knowledge? Who understands? Munihi gacchati. Muni is what? Manana Sheela. The one who is a yati, sannyasi, yatna Sheela, who has made the right efforts in the right direction to gain this knowledge. That includes also who has done enough preparatory work so that he or she is in a position to gain this knowledge. Eventually, knowledge just happens automatically. Any knowledge happens automatically. You submit yourself to the pramana, the means of knowledge. The knowledge just happens automatically. Pramana does its job. You open the eyes, if the light is there, you'll see what it has to see. I don't will myself to not see or to see. So the Munihi who has made the effort to expose oneself to that knowledge after having done adequate preparatory work. Such a person he calls Munihi. Munihi Gacchati. One might ask, what is the preparation? What kind of Muni? What is it done? Who is there in the previous verse? Who is Virajam, Vishuddham, who has totally taken control of all the rajas, to whom likes and dislikes can do nothing. He has, with his effort, taken the fangs out of the two ripu, the enemies. They are the highway robbers in our path to try and understand the truth, which is moksha. Such a person, and therefore has no mala. Mala is all in the form of ragadvesha only. Therefore is Vishuddham. Such a Muni who has prepared himself well, he gains. Gacchati. All right. He has prepared himself, he is ready. And how does he gacchati? How does he prapnoti? Dhyatva. Sajatiya vitti pravahena shakshakritva. By that ability to focus the mind entirely on that one subject, sajatiya vritti pravaha. Pravahena, by that kind of that kind of an effort. Even for that, there's a lot of preparation required. One, he said, Virajam Vishuddham. But he also has to get to the state of Chitta Naischalyam, Ekagrita Dhyanam, staying with one subject for a length of time. Here, the subject, that one subject to stay on happens to be you, the subject. But to get to that spot, the Muni does a lot of effort. Jhatva, Praitnam Kritva. On what? On the understanding, and for that he has used a lot of words, that whatever I do dhyanam on, whether I do for a saguna, on a saguna Brahma, or on anything else, is only on that Nirguna Brahma. Any Saguna Brahma I do Dhyanam on is only a manifestation, and therefore I understand that although I am doing Dhyanam on my chosen Saguna Brahman, my Ishta Devata, I'm really doing Dhyanam on I. I am the meditator who is meditating on I, the meditated. Dhyatva. And previously, he'd given a lot of words in the previous verse. Vichintya madhye vishadam vishokam achintyam avyaktam anantarupam shivam prashantam amritam brahmayonim. all of these words, each word one can analyze. Each word stands for that Nirguna Brahman, Achintyam, Avyaktam. And all these are in Nitya Vibhakti, as we saw. Dhyatva on that vastu, which is all this. So the Muni, who has done all the preparatory work and who has now come to the stage of being able to do Nididhyasanam, who has removed all Shamshaya from the mind, and that's a process you have to go through. Every time you discuss with somebody, he presents arguments which are against what you have studied in Shastra, and it all sounds very logical. You cannot dismiss it outright without a proper basis for it. In fact, if you ask me, Shankaracharya's biggest contribution was as an educator. Went around discussing with everybody who had a different point of view. I won't even call it different, but who had a point of view. This is not point of view. This understanding is clarity. And took the trouble to show where the error is. And did it very successfully. That has been his biggest contribution. One who has removed all the wrong notions. So if one has a notion, whether it is a karmata, whether it's a dvaitin, or any other type of thinking, all one has to do is to read Shankaracharya's bhashyam, read his arguments. Incidentally, his arguments, detailed arguments with Mandana Mishra is available. Enough to convince Mandana Mishra to understanding Advaita and becoming the Shishya of Shankaracharya. That Muni, who has done Dhyanam, Nididhyasanam on the Nirguna Brahman, even he, before the understanding gets assimilated completely, requires a form. The difference is when one person does Dhyanam on his Ishta Devata, let's say on Lord Krishna, he stops there. So he does Dhyanam on Lord Krishna and all the attributes of Lord Krishna that are detailed in various Puranas. But inside he knows that it is only a manifestation of Parameshwara. Despite the fact that you're given this form, that is where his one step is missing. So he will say, my Ishvara is Parameshwara. He's right. But he's right without understanding. And therefore, he will defend it tooth and nail. Which is one of the reasons why we have so many conflicts. I am worshipping, doing Dhyanam on my Ishta Devata. And anybody who says my Ishta Devata is not Parameshwara, there's somebody else who is Parameshwara, he will fight. Only when that understanding becomes clear that Ishta Devata is only a manifestation of the Parameshwara, formless, attributeless Parameshwara. Then there is no fight. But even he needs that form. In the this Muni who's done Dhyanam on what for him? He says, Uma Sahayam. For whom Uma Parvati is the helpmeet, Sahayam. Purusha and Prakriti, Shiva and Shakti, represented as male and female, without which there can be no Jagat. Purusha by itself is Nirguna Brahman, cannot create anything. A whole lot of stuff here. How did that come about? Because of a notional thing called Prakriti. The Samarthyam to create. Brahman by itself does not have any Samarthyam to create, in the sense that cannot create anything. Brahman is, period. This whole Jagat is. When we understand that whole Jagat is, the is Brahman, and the Jagat is Mithya born out of Avidya. And that is born out of this notion called Maya. Maya, Prakriti is also called Maya. Prakriti is also called Avidya. Without that Prakriti, it is a very peculiar situation. It is neither an independent entity, independent of Brahman. Therefore, it's not a second. And yet, that which has no existence on its own. That is Prakriti. Prakriyate karyadikam anaya, by which all the karya, shrishti, sthiti, laya, everything that happens becomes possible. That itself doesn't exist on its own. How are you going to create anything? Only in the presence of Nirguna Brahman. To explain the existence of the Jagat, all the things that we think is real, we have this peculiar concept which exists and yet doesn't exist. It exists, but does not exist on its own. It's called Maya or Prakriti. So you now have a problem. How do you represent this, that which is non-existing and yet exists? Brahman is only one, and you still have to have this concept called Prakriti, which has the Kriya Samarthyam. Therefore, it is represented often as Ardhanarishvara. It is neither separate from Brahman, nor is it the same as Brahman. One way of representing it is called Ardhanarishvara, without which no Jagat exists. In the Jagat also you will see the two components, Purusha and Stri, are necessary for the rest of the Jagat to exist, to be sustained, and eventually to become samhara. I used to wonder why women are not allowed to do yajna. Then I realized that even man cannot do yajna. Without a patni, the man is not entitled to most of the yajna. So yajna cannot be done only by man, cannot be done only by woman. That combination is required, even for yajna. Okay, so Uma Sahayam. Purusha, Prakriti, Shiva, Shakti, for creating Srishti Sthiti. That's Samarthyam. Without the Sahaya of Uma, Purusha can do nothing. That doesn't have to do anything. It is going backwards. We know the Jagat exists, we know I exist, we know my enemies exist, my friends exist, the animals which I fear exist. I'm going backwards saying, how do I understand this? Therefore, Prakriti. That Prakriti, which is the helpmeet for Shiva, Parvati, he says, Uma Sahayam Parameshwaram. Remember, this is all still in Dvitiya Vibhakti. Still saying, Uma Sahayam, that to that one who has the help of Uma, Parvati. Parameshwaram. When you say Ishvara, the word itself means one who is the Lord of. And in the Jagat, we accept that Bhagavan, Ishvara is the Karanam. And like I said, we give our own sense of an image for that Ishvara for our benefit. Each one creates an Ishvara which he or she feels comfortable reaching out to. And to that Ishvara, we reach out. But what does Parameshwara indicate? Parascha asau Ishvarascha. Utkrishta. One who is responsible for all of these forms of Ishvara. The Tikakara calls it Utkrishtam Brahmadi Niyantaram. One who controls and leads all devatas, Brahmadi, for whom there is no Ishvara. Now look at this Muni who is now doing jhanam on Shiva, who has the help of Parvati, and he will describe in form later. But he understands that he is Parameshwara. Like I said, if I have Shiva as my Ishta Devata. And if I understand Shiva is a manifestation of Parameshwara, then I have no quarrel with anybody who has some other Ishvara. But if my understanding stops there, then I have a huge problem. Brahma Kumaris, I believe, stop at Shiva as the ultimate. At least one of them told me. Our Hare Krishna movement, they stop at Krishna as the Parameshwara. Their understanding becomes blocked at that point. Therefore, they would argue with you that the only Ishvara lives in Golok Vrindavan. Then they will have a form, they'll have a place for the other fellow will argue it is Kailasha, not our Nityananda Kailasha. I don't know, I saw in the news somewhere that he had a permanent representative in the UN. How was she allowed to get into the UN? Can I walk into the UN and say I'm a permanent representative of XYZ country? No, something is wrong. And she made big statements in that UN. But I'm a Shiva Bhakta. I say Shiva is the eventual Parameshwara and is sitting Kailasha. Here he is saying Parameshwara. Utkrishta Ishvara, for whom there is no further overlordship. Can you imagine, like some of our leaders who have all the power, no responsibility, no accountability. Accountability will come in the next election. Long enough time for them to establish themselves. Parameshwara. Parameshwara, because of whom the whole Jagat runs, has all the power, but no response. There is nobody to whom he reports. Some of you have worked in the corporate world, I know. When you are the head of a small unit, your head office based in London, you are the head of one unit in South India. In your domain, you are king. But you still have to get sanctions from head office. Everybody has a boss. Your boss may not be sitting where you're sitting. That's the boss. And if a person is married, the boss is at home only. Everybody has a boss, except Parameshwara, because you keep going on. Boss's boss, boss's boss, boss's boss, boss's boss. Where do you stop? Parameshwara. Nobody to boss over. Paramascha sau, Ishwarascha. All power, no accountability. But how does he manage a thing like this? Can you imagine if in the Jagat we have a situation like that? All power, no accountability. Then a lot of personal agenda creeps in. I want to do it because I like it. But we are talking Parameshwara. Where is personal agenda? He can't turn around and say, I'm deliberately saying he for the moment, that I don't like that fellow's face. I'm going to give him trouble. There's no personal agenda. Now, what is this Parameshwara then? It is the whole order. There are laws. There's no form. Everything that happens because there's a cause. And that cause is you. So not driven by any personal agenda. There's no need. Why would somebody who is Purnaha, who is infinite, have any agenda? This is true of Parameshwara and anybody who is Munihi Gachati, because he's understood himself not in the Sharira, but the real self to be Parameshwara. No personal need, no want. I don't want to change anything. And how does he operate? He operates simply by being. He has to do nothing. And therefore he needs Umasahayam. Everything happens merely by the presence. Umasahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum. To that Prabhu. Prabhu. Prakrishena Bhati. Swayam Jyoti. Sve Mahimne Tishtati is there. Doesn't require anything. That Prabhu Swayam Bhati. Therefore, we don't require another torchlight to see Prabhu. Because of Prabhu. Earlier we saw Vibhu. Vividam Bhati. Prabhu Prakshena Bhati. Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Adye Kshina Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. My presence is enough for Prakriti to create Chara and Achara. Mayadhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. What does the second line go? Mayadhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam.
Hetuna anena kaunteya.
Hetuna anena kaunteya.
Jagat
Parivartate. Everything happens. All changes happen. Everything happens simply because Mayadhyakshena. Mere presence of Parmeshwara. Having said all this, Parmeshwara and Prabhu, it reverts back to the form. Umasahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum. Then Trilochanam. Shiva. Lord Shiva has three eyes. In many places you see it represented as past, present, and future. As the three states of being. Many ways it's represented. Trilochanam, the third eye. Sometimes it's represented as Jnanam. The Jnanam which can destroy Ajnanam, born Kama. Therefore, we have this stories in the Purana. Most Puranic stories, you can look a little deep into, those symbolic. When Tarakasura was creating a problem, not allowing any yajna to take place, it was so powerful that the Devatas were troubled, they couldn't do anything to him. they all went to Bhagwan. All the Puranas are nice. All the devas go to Parmeshwara and say, please help. Just like a local police finds that his beat is full of gundas and he can't control them. He goes to a higher level and says, please help, send support, additional troops, send the military. So he goes, they all go to Mahavishnu and says, the only way Tarakasura can be stopped is if Shiva begets a son. And that son can destroy Tarakasura. Now, how to get Shiva to first marry Parvati? Parvati is, remember, she is already in tapas. She has made up her mind, Shiva is the one she's going to marry, and she is in tapas. They say, how to do it? And Shiva is in Dhanam. Somebody asked me, I think we talked about this. What was he doing Dhanam on? Has to be the Nirguna Brahman. And they knew that he should not be disturbed. But they still wanted to speed up the process. So they sent Manmatha, the lord of Kama, who hid behind a tree and shot an arrow of flowers. Shiva's Dhyanam got bhanga. And angry opened his third eye. Instantly, Kama was burnt to ashes. So it is said symbolically that when your eye of Jnanam opens, desires cannot do anything, they are burnt. You have an appropriate verse in the Gita also. Like fire burns fuel, Jnanam burns Ajnanam. So one representation of the three Lochana. Lochana is eye. The third eye is eye of knowledge, which when opened can destroy Ajnanam born Kama. Story representative of that. Trilochanam. Lord Shiva's son Murugan is called Shanmuga. Shanmukha. Shat Mukha. Six-faced. Becomes Shanmuga. Shanmukha. And therefore he is like father, like son. He also is supposed to have three eyes. So it is Ashtadasha Lochanena. Ashtadasha Lochanena. So Trilochanam. That Dhyanam he does on Lord Shiva, who is Trilochana. And with the clarity that although I am doing Dhyanam on Lord Shiva, really my understanding is for my convenience, my understanding is there is only one Parameshwara. Tulochanam Neelakantam Prashantam. You all know the story of Neelakantha, another name for Lord Shiva. There is a huge mural in Bangkok airport of the story of Alkadal Mathana. that is also supposed to be symbolic. This ocean of milky white ocean is the ocean of knowledge. When Devas were troubled, all these stories somehow revolve around Devas being troubled by Asuras. Essentially, again, meaning we being troubled by our own ragadveshas. And they are told that if you can get amritam from that knowledge, ocean of knowledge, then these asuras, who symbolically, like I said, are our own ragadveshas, can be controlled. But to do that churning, they required the help of asuras also. When you first start studying Vedanta and knowledge begins to happen, a lot of things come out. A lot of hidden, unconscious, subconscious things begin to come out. When you seriously study Vedanta full time, you can sense this. There are people who go through very troubled state. People go into a mood of crying. So all these things come out. By the churning of the ocean of knowledge. By that churning, eventually you will get amritam. And amritam is nothing but clarity of knowledge, represented here by ambrosia, amritam. But before that amritam comes, so many things come. Some very nice things and some not so nice. So this churning takes place. A lot of things come. Kamadhenu comes. Vriksha can give you everything that comes. A lot of things come. Some painful things also come. And amongst the ones that come is a poison which can completely destroy you. Occasionally, you will find when people take to serious Vedanta study, I have known at least 2 cases where they've really gone down. Like I said, it brings out all kinds of things from within. Things you didn't even know existed within you. But if you can overcome them, then eventual knowledge is assured by Shastra. That amritam is assured. In this case also, in the story, one such poison came up. And that could have destroyed the entire world. So they appealed to Lord Shiva. Promptly drank it up. Otherwise, he absorbed it himself. And it said Parvati prevented it from going within by stopping it at his neck, Kantha. So the neck became blue, Neelakantha. So the Jagat, for which, remember, Parvati is the Shakti. She has the Shakti to create this Jagat, to maintain this Jagat. And she doesn't want Jagat destroyed. He stops that. So even today, in all representation of Shiva, you will see a blue-necked Shiva. Neelakantham. So that blue-necked Shiva, the one who will do Dhyan. Lochanam, Neelakantham, Prashantam. Nirguna Brahman cannot have any agitation. Any agitation in us prevents this knowledge from taking place. This knowledge is eventually represented as Shanti. Then there is no external thing for the individual to feel complete. Vatmaramam mudita vadanam dakshinamurti mide. Swatmaramam, the entire experience of joy, not even experience, entire nature of joy, Ananda. Because that is the Swarupa of Ananda. That is the Swarupa of you. And Ananda Swarupa, in the image, it is represented as Prashanta. Absolute Shanti. And in the image of Lord Dakshinamurti, represented as Mudita Vadanam. The smile. You will see all these Dakshinamurti, you will find a faint smile. In Persian, it's called tabassum. Not a laugh, it's not an open smile, but there's a faint smile on the face of Dakshinamurti. Prashantam. So, Lochanam Neelakantam Prabhum Lochanam Neelakantam Prashantam. One who has done dhyanam on this form of Nirguna Brahma, because he prepared himself thoroughly for that. Although he does his dhyanam on a form that he chooses, with the clarity that what I am looking for is that knowledge of the self which is Nirguna. Sahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum Lochanam Neelakantam Prashantam Dhyatva Munikgacchati Bhuta Yonim. That Munihi reaches, obtains, gains the nature of Bhuta Yoni. Here can mean beings, it can also mean the Panchabhutas. He is the Karana of this apparent Jagat, of this Mithya Jagat. That's why when in some of the early classes, when I said, you tell anybody, you are the cause of everything in this cosmos. Very difficult for him to absorb. But as you study more and more, you understand what that sentence means. Bhuta Yonim reaches the state of understanding that I am the cause of the entire Jagat. The entire Jagat is Mithya, including this body, mind, sense complex. But I am the real I am the cause of this Jagat, which is non-self-existing, like a dream. Dream which cannot exist without the dreamer's knowledge gathered during the waking hours. You cannot dream of anything which you have not known during the waking hours. Lochanam Neelakantham Prashantam Yatva Muni Gacchati Bhuta Yonim. samasta sakshim tamasa parastat, whose mere presence, who is the witness of everything that happens, of the entire creation, of its sustenance. Samasta Sakshi. Use this word Sakshi in Digdashivek also. Just by the mere fact that I am there, that I is always there. I'm using the word carefully, always, because time comes into being from I. I'm the cause of time also. Samasta Saksham reaches the state of being the drik of everything. Reaches the state of understanding I am Bhuta Yoni. I am Samasta Sakshi. And Tamasa Parastat. Tamas is Ajnanam. All this time I've started by saying there is Nirguna Brahman. We create something called Prakriti, it attaches to the Brahman. The whole Jagat is as though created. The whole Jagat is as though sustained. But when you now come to the state of understanding that Muni, that I am Bhuta Yoni and I am merely Sarvasya Sakshi. Then that entity we had proposed, called Prakriti, has no more role to play. We created this to understand that there is this Jagat which is non-self-existent, because I, as what I as the fallacious notion of I thought was there. Now I've come to understand that Jagat is Mithya. And because the Jagat is Mithya, whatever was the cause of this Jagat, which had the samarthyam to create this Jagat, also has to be Mithya. In that stage, I am no more ignorant. In one verse, it's completely given us the entire Advaita Jnana. It's the only state when I can make a statement, I am no more ignorant. Now we connect it to the very other statements, where the Shishya goes and asks his father, is there a knowledge knowing which I know everything? The only time I can say I know everything. Only day I can say there is nothing more to know. So when one Muni has done all the preparation, done the dhyanam, on what? All that was described in great detail, and then brought it down to saying, okay, you do dhyanam on any one form, here Shiva, with understanding. Munihi Bhuta Yonim Gacchati, Samasta Sakshim Gacchati, Tamasas Parastat Gacchati. no more tamas. No more tamas born any of the brood of things that happen in tamas. Therefore, our famous 2 lines, 2 verses in the Gita become non-applicable. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha. All those things that follow become non-applicable. That Muni goes very uncomfortable using the word beyond, but it probably best suits it here. Beyond tamas. Tamas doesn't even exist. There's only Satyam. And that comes from this knowledge of what is Mithya, which is dependent on Satyam. That Munihi, by doing all that he has to do, has gained that jnanam, which allows him to go beyond jnana, beyond all that is caused by jnana. We will continue next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.